After that incident with Bentancur previously, Ramsey, Tielemans, Onana and McGinn in midfield. Rodgers playing just behind Watkins, and John Duran again waits for his first league start this season. Villa's top scorer in all competitions this term. He is amongst the substitutes. So the trumpeter has played the tune, and now the fans join in with When the Spurs Go Marching In. Can they get on the march in the Premier League? Again, 10 points worse off than the same stage of last season, but buoyed by that victory over Manchester City here in the League Cup in midweek. So it's Aston Villa who get us on the way, kicking from left to right in this first half at a grey and chilly Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Back with Pau Torres at the back for Aston Villa, and straight out of play for a throw. And the first chance to hear from Glenn Murray since kick-off.
Well, you said it's chilly, but hopefully we've got plenty of goals coming up, and that's going to warm us up, because these two teams like to play a high line, they like to play with risk, they like to play with energy, and they often entertain.
Well, it's destiny of doggy for Tottenham Hotspur, who have been the entertainers under Ange Postecoglou. He's remained phlegmatic in the face of criticism after some of the drop-off in terms of their Premier League performances, as Dragusin brings it forwards into the side today in place of the stricken Mickey van der Ven, who tweaked his hamstring in that League Cup victory over Manchester City here in midweek, when Spurs were pretty good value for their success against a fairly patched up Manchester City, it has to be said. Dragusin under no pressure inside his own half, plays it square to Christian Romero. Villa sitting off with Watkins and Rodgers just on the halfway line, and almost a bit of a phony war before Romero swings a boot at it and John McGinn cuts it out in centre field. A doggy nods it onto Son Heung-min, who plays it forwards to Pat Matar Sarr. Wriggling away from a couple of challenges and finding Udogie. Left side of the pitch as Tottenham Hotspur look at things, and it's just broken down, and Bentancur will pick it up on the halfway line.
Yeah, just looking at the game as it settles down, Aston Villa really settled, just sitting in a 4-4-2. It's kind of a mid-block, just waiting for Spurs to try and break them down, and when they do, the first thought, can we pass forward, can we pounce?
John McGinn trying to burst through the middle of midfield, and he's done just that to find Ramsey out on the left-hand side. Chance for Ramsey to have a dart at Pedro Porro, and he's taking on the Spaniard, and Ramsey's got away from him, nearly got into the area, but Bentancur was alert and covered well to just nick it off his toes on the corner of the box. McGinn collects, and Villa build again, about 30 yards out from goal, central area, square pass into the feet of Morgan Rodgers, and well, he's in decent nick in front of goal. 2 goals and 2 assists in his last 5 league games, but well off target with the effort there.
Yeah, I just wondered if McGinn could have shot earlier on. He decided to do a little pirouette, and as Morgan Rodgers opened up 20 yards from goal, it was worth a pop, and he got his angles all wrong.
2.5 minutes gone at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, 0-0. Don't forget full commentary of Manchester United against Chelsea from Old Trafford later on this afternoon, as Ruud van Nistelrooy continues his mini spell in charge of United. Good ball in towards Watkins here, and Dragusin did just about enough to nudge the England man off the ball and prevent him getting a clean strike at goal.
One thing is, when you get that ball out to Digne on that left-hand side, you know that delivery is going to be quality, and from that point, Ollie Watkins can gamble, just gets a little bit in front of the ball, doesn't quite get the angle of it, but a wonderful ball from the Aston Villa left-back.
Ping forwards towards Solanke, and a real wrestle between him and Ezri Konsa, which our referee today, Craig Pawson, felt was fair enough, so no free kick forthcoming. Villa on halfway with McGinn, who shielded the ball from Udogie, and the home fans will unfortunately be cheering the fact that Matty Cash has been clattered. He's had a run-in with a couple of Spurs players in the past, that injury that was inflicted on Rodrigo Bentancur, and also one with Matt Doherty in the past as well. Udogie was late on Cash there, but it is just a free kick and no further censure.
Yeah, I think it was just a little bit of momentum that took him through Matty Cash. Matty Cash made the most of it, up in the air, but he's absolutely fine, back on his feet, and he's actually in possession of the football now. Cash on halfway for Villa, goalless, as you can hear the boos directed towards the Polish international. Emi Martinez in the D of his area, rolls it square to Pau Torres, and now Luca Digne under the pump from Brennan Johnson, and it comes off the Welshman last and goes out for a throw in the left-back area for Aston Villa. Spurs won the
last meeting and won it healthily at Villa Park in March, 4-0. John McGinn was sent off in that game for a rash challenge on Destiny Udogie. Villa have won 3 of the 5 games played here at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Only Chelsea have got a better record when coming here in the Premier League. It's Kulusevski on the left flank for Spurs, trying to get a run at Matty Cash, who's stuck at his task well, and then John McGinn with that familiar technique of using his posterior well, as Tielemans brings it forwards for Villa, but he's coughed up possession to Bentancur. Central position, Solanke dropping deep, and now Bentancur again. This is midway inside Villa territory. Neither side really finding their rhythm in the opening 5 minutes, as Son goes back to Sarr. Square ball from him to Bissouma. The Tottenham fans find their voice for the first time since kick-off and egg their side on, but at the moment side-to-side passing from their midfield trio of Sarr, Bentancur and Kulusevski. Forwards now to Son on the left, angle for the cross. Cash, the first man, he couldn't clear, but it comes to Pedro Porro, who has an almighty heave at that and sends it well over the top of the bar.
Yeah, it's one he won't want to see back. That Pedro Porro is much better than that technically. Blasts it high over the top of the goal. Really interesting to see both teams out of possession. We've mentioned that Aston Villa like to sit in that 4-4-2, that mid-block, and they're slightly more, let's say, pragmatic than Tottenham, but Tottenham are really high pressing. They want to win that ball and hurt Villa on the transition.
Both sides like to gamble by playing out from the back, and it's Villa's turn to roll the dice this time, but they've come away with it nicely, and it's Amadou Onana leading the counter-charge for Villa at the moment. Into the feet of Rodgers. Rodgers back to Cash, who will go further back to Ezri Konsa, and Konsa finds his goalkeeper Emi Martinez. Already been quite a weekend in the FA Cup, hasn't it? And we've got another cluster of first-round ties taking place today. They're nearly all over at MK Dons, where Wimbledon are leading by 2-0 with 10 minutes left to play, and Birmingham set to avoid an upset, leading by a 0-0 at Sutton United. That was also a 12:30 kick-off, and they've just begun at Boreham Wood, where it's goalless between them and Leyton Orient, and Mansfield Town 0-0 away at Curzon Ashton. That one also a 2 o'clock start. We'll keep you up to date with all of those, and you can see all of the goals from the FA Cup on the BBC Sport website and app as well. Free kick for Villa, meanwhile, halfway inside their own half after Tielemans was just caught from behind. It has become quite a trademark of the sides up towards the top end of the table to see that strategy of playing the short goal kicks out from the back, and Villa have managed to work it forwards now to McGinn. Corner of the area, might open up for the shot here, went for the curling effort. Sarr got back to make the block, and Anna picks up the pieces for Villa, and then it's just had a bit too many nibbles at Dejan Kulusevski, and Spurs get the free kick.
Yeah, as McGinn picked that ball up on the right-hand side, he was just waiting for that Matty Cash overlap to try and create that space for him to shoot into the far corner, but Spurs defenders didn't buy it.
Romero for Tottenham Hotspur. From the outside looking in as a neutral, it seems a bit strange to hear that there's been a bit of discontent at times about the way Spurs are doing under Ange Postecoglou from some members of the support, but when you look at the stats, they've lost 9 of their last 16 in the league. Only Wolves have actually lost more than Tottenham since mid-April.
You're looking at me like you want a reaction out of me, Mark.
Just seeing what the expert thinks rather than the man trotting out the stats, as Son runs over to try and keep the ball in, but it's going to dribble beyond the byline.
I think it's important to take into consideration where they were before Ange Postecoglou took over. I think the football was so negative around here, and it's very much against what Spurs fans believe represents their team. They have always believed that they're a free-flowing, forward-thinking football team, and I think Ange Postecoglou's installed that. Yes, there'll be frustrations around his lack of changeability, his adaptability, but I think all in all, they're being entertained.
Well, that makes me feel a lot better, because that's precisely what I said to some of my Spurs supporting friends. So the fact that it's been backed up by the Mecca of Glenn Murray has certainly put a smile on my face. Not too much to shout about on the pitch here, though, with 9 minutes played. Still 0-0 between Spurs and Villa, and to come later on a really intriguing match-up at Old Trafford between Manchester United and Chelsea. 4:30 start for that one. Ball looped forwards towards Ramsey on the left-hand side. He's controlled it well and kept it in. Romero's gone across to try and jockey him out of play, and three Spurs players actually have forced him to retreat, and Luca Digne goes back to halfway where it's collected by Pau Torres. No pressure on the ball, so he's able to just shunt it sideways to Konsa, and now it's Cash on the right-hand side for Villa. Infield from McGinn to the feet of Ollie Watkins. He's dabbed it off to Tielemans, who was nearly caught by Solanke, but Villa have recycled it well, albeit they've been forced all the way back into their own penalty area with Emi Martinez.
Yeah, when we get a look at the first 10 minutes, we've not had much action in front of goal. It's very much been played in the middle of the pitch. Neither team can really seem to get a hold or find their rhythm in the game yet.
Villa back in Champions League action in midweek, and we'll have more Champions League commentary for you on 5 Live on Tuesday. Liverpool against Bayer Leverkusen, updates from Sporting against Manchester City, and Celtic against Leipzig as well that evening as well. Another goal in the WSL at Lee Sports Village. Sunny Rudravajula.
7 to go, Manchester United have equalised. Manchester United 1, Arsenal 1. Corner coming in from Gabby George. Rachel Williams helping it on its way, and sub Melvin Mallard bundling home. United 1, Arsenal 1.
Thanks very much for that, Sunny. Palace up against Manchester City at Selhurst Park in a 2 o'clock kickoff in the WSL as well. Brighton against Leicester, and Spurs West Ham have also kicked off about 10 minutes ago in the WSL too. Here's Son Heung-min on the left for Spurs. Cash quickly across to just take it off the South Korean's toes.
There seems to be a little bit of a niggle developing between Son and Cash. Every time Son gets it, he's super tight, and a couple of times when he's dropped the ball off, he's looked towards the referee kick, Craig Pawson. He's not happy with how tight Matty Cash is getting.
It's Glenn Murray with us on 5 Live's Premier League Sunday. Full commentary from Tottenham against Aston Villa with 11 minutes gone, and no serious chances of note, although there was a bit of a wobble as Emi Martinez gets it away with Son closing him down, and then he played Pau Torres into a spot of bother, and Brennan Johnson was quickly on him, but the Spaniard able to hit it against Johnson and behind for a goal kick.
Yeah, didn't quite get enough on that pass, but he was close enough to the byline that when Brennan Johnson did jump in, it was only gone one way, and that's out of play.
John McGinn's been buffeted from behind by Destiny Udogie, and the groans from the home fans that Craig Pawson has decided that merited a free kick, which Cash will take. Long towards Watkins, and it won't reach him. Radu Dragushin is able to intercept, and Papsar has been fouled. Spurs quickly back underway. Here's Destiny Udogie. It's been a goal in one of the 2 o'clock kickoffs in the FA Cup first round. Boreham Wood against Leyton Orient. Chris Coles.
The League One side in front inside 12 minutes. Sonny Perkins with the goal, shooting from the edge of the penalty area. Boreham Wood goalkeeper Nathan Ashmore got a touch to it, couldn't keep it out, and it's Boreham Wood 0, Leyton Orient 1.
Also a 2 o'clock start at Curzon Ashton. Rob Law.
Curzon Ashton 0, Mansfield 0. Mansfield dominating possession, but Curzon Ashton going close moments ago. Michael Afoye broke through into the area, but denied by a brilliant sliding challenge right at the last minute to deny him an opening goal. Still 0-0, 12 minutes in.
Thanks very much indeed, as Spurs win themselves a free kick in a promising area here. Romero with the ball forwards into Pedro Porro, and Ramsey, in trying to tackle him from behind, has conceded the free kick. We'll be at Selhurst Park shortly for an update in the WSL game between Palace and Manchester City, but we'll just wait to see what happens with this free kick for Tottenham Hotspur, which is right of centre, about 10 yards outside the Villa penalty area. Son in conversations with Kulusevski at the moment. Kulusevski's been in good providing form of late, and he set up both goals against Manchester City in the League Cup here on Wednesday. Will it be the in-swinger from him or the out-swinger from Son? Both hands on hips at the moment. Kulusevski leaves it, Son pokes it in, and Solanke got his head to it, and it goes behind for a goal kick. So let's pay our first visit to Selhurst Park and hear from Emma Jones.
And it's still goalless here, but according to my stopwatch, Buddy Shaw took 24 seconds to get a first shot on target. 14 minutes played now though. Crystal Palace 0, Man City 0.
And in the closing stages, 1 each between Manchester United and Arsenal at Lee Sports Village as well. Here in North London, still waiting for this game to really get going. 14 minutes on the clock as Watkins is out-jumped by Romero. The ball bounces into the Villa half where Kulusevski couldn't make it stick. Anana's helped to win it back, and Tielemans works it to the left, and Ramsey, who fancies a dart against Pedro Porro, but Brennan Johnson gets back to help him out very quickly indeed.
Yeah, he does indeed. He's always back, always doing his work the other way. But Spurs fans, I want to see more of him going forward rather than back there. That midfield trio of Aston Villa just starting to tick a little bit. Tielemans, Rodgers and Onana, they look good together.
Cash for Villa, just inside Tottenham territory as he motors away down the right flank. McGinn goes infield to Onana instead though. Bentancur on his shoulder, so McGinn receives the pass back from him. Tries to turn away from Bentancur, and it's a bit of a cheap free kick, I think, there. McGinn shielded the ball well. Bentancur was having a couple of nibbles at him, and Craig Pawson felt there was enough in it to give the free kick.
How did he shield it?
With his posterior.
Yeah, he does it really well, doesn't he? He's just turning and again pirouetting. He's so good and he's so aware, but I do feel that was a really soft free kick, but a chance for Aston Villa to put the ball into the box and ask some questions of this Spurs defence.
Breaking play here, and there's been a penalty at Curzon Ashton. Rob Law.
And it's a penalty to Mansfield for the League One side to break the deadlock, and it's dispatched by Lucas Atkins. The penalty came about after it was dropped on the line by Marcus Posher, stopped by his hands. The referee pointed to the spot. Posher was given a straight red card. Curzon Ashton down to 10 men, and League One Mansfield have the lead.
Well, perhaps not another FA Cup shock on the cards there. We've seen a few already, haven't we, this weekend, as Tielemans collects about 10 yards outside the Spurs penalty area, works it to the right, and John McGinn thought about the cross but opts to go backwards of square to Pau Torres, who's just in front of the centre circle for Villa. Square to Matty Cash, again attracting the boos from the home fans as McGinn once again uses that particular part of his anatomy to block off Destiny Udogie, who's won it fairly this time. Villa thought a free kick was incoming. Instead, Kulusevski charging forwards, and he's I thought overhit the pass, but Brennan Johnson's done ever so well to get to the byline, turned on the afterburners there, clipped it in and wins a corner.
He did. It was a really poor pass by Kulusevski. He could have just played it into Brennan Johnson's path, but he was too far in front of him. I thought Emi Martinez was going to come and collect it. Actually, he decided to retract to his goal line, lifts it in, but Digne gets back just to head it out for a Tottenham corner.
Spurs with this corner then, 17 minutes gone. Kulusevski gives Pedro Porro the option for a short one, but looks as though he's going to be snubbed here perhaps, and it'll be a conventional delivery from the Spaniard Porro, who has his arm raised in the air, and there's a conga line of about 3 Spurs players waiting for the ball in. He does eventually go short to Kulusevski, and that hasn't worked out for Spurs, and a bit of disquiet amongst the home fans and the fact they wasted that, but they've won it back, and Kulusevski with the ball in dangerously now, cleared out as far as Romero on the edge of the area. The Argentinian couldn't quite get there in time. Villa get a little bit lucky.
They did. Well, I was going to say it was a terrible corner routine, but somehow they made amends and won the ball back and got in behind, and they did have a man over. I don't think he quite saw it, but better by Spurs.
Nice switch across to the left, and Son, who's up against Cash. Cash has won that battle but then lost his footing, and Son has it, crossing area from the corner of the area. Nice disguised pass into Kulusevski, and Bentancur going for glory, almost clears the bottom stand, doesn't quite reach the middle tier.
Yeah, 25 yards out, he was bouncing quite nicely. He thought, why not have a dig? I don't think he got much further away there, Bentancur. Spurs a little bit better going forward, a little bit more lively. Kulusevski starting to get on the ball, Son getting on the ball, and the plays they need to try and break this Aston Villa defence down.
Unai Emery celebrates his 53rd birthday today, and what 2 years it's been since he took over at Aston Villa. They've won the 4th most points in the Premier League since his arrival, and obviously top of the Champions League standings at the moment, and we'll have commentaries for you from the Champions League on 5 Live and BBC Sounds next week. Liverpool against Leverkusen, so Xabi Alonso going to Anfield in that one, which will be a special occasion, of course. And Inter Milan against Arsenal on Wednesday for you as well. Spurs will be back in Europa League action against Galatasaray on Thursday.
Both teams here lacking a little bit of cohesion, aren't they? Can't quite find their groove. Can't help but feel when Aston Villa get the ball, they need to try and find Morgan Rodgers in that number 10 position to try and break Spurs down, but the minute Spurs lines are so tight,
The doggy's got round the back here, but that's excellent covering from Onana to slide in. The Belgian had to time that right, and he berates some of his teammates for the fact that Spurs were able to work that down the left-hand side, and Son was able to pick out Udogie, who managed to get the slip.
Yeah, that's what he does though, he's always sensing that danger. Brilliant player, such a huge physicality, the way he covers the ground. A real good signing for Unai Emery.
Pedro Porro's corner, I think after the last short one was not exactly the best, they'll go for the more conventional delivery, and indeed it's in towards the near post, and Anna's there again, comes out as far as Sarr, who lets fly, and then trying to deflect it goalwards. Brennan Johnson nearly tested Emi Martinez, but the flag was raised in any event. Sarr, who scored from range against Manchester City, deciding to let fly here, but Johnson was well offside.
Yeah, as his first touch side just went too high and he just dragged the life out of it, and Brennan Johnson, returning from the corner, thought why not stick out a foot, but 5 or 6 yards offside.
Son for Spurs on halfway, jinking and weaving and getting away from Onana, but not able to get past Matty Cash, although Onana seemed to have cleaned him out by Craig Pawson, so Tottenham have got a free kick just inside the Villa half.
I'm not sure he did clean him out. I think there was a coming together beforehand. Son realised he just put a little bit too much on that ball. Matty Cash was going to get it, and he just goes down. That was without doubt a dive.
Here's Dragishin for Spurs. It's just been a feel of one of those lazy Sunday afternoons so far. Not much cut and thrust about either team as we wait for it to really get going. Lukadinho with a fairly aimless header just outside his own penalty area. Kulusevski tries to turn it infield towards Solanke, who has his hands on his head as the ball didn't quite reach him, but Tottenham do have a corner.
I think everything so far this afternoon is based on each other's mistakes rather than any good play, so to say.
Corner for Spurs. Kulusevski over this one instead of Pedro Porro. He's pinged it in towards a penalty spot area. Villa have defended that well. Sarr with a complete air kick from 20 yards out, which sort of sums up what the game has been like so far. He has rescued possession for Tottenham as they go back towards halfway. Into the feet of Bentancur, just inside the Villa half now. Square pass to Sarr, who's got a lot of room to run into and dashes across from right to left. Short pass into Bentancur's feet. He's closed down by Ollie Watkins, but can offload to Romero easily enough. Bentancur now advancing and having a go from range, and that was a bit closer. Martinez didn't need to do anything about it, as it just dipped from the Uruguayan, but not quite enough, and cleared the bar by half a yard.
Well, Spurs have had 2 or 3 digs from long range, and this one by far is the closest. It only goes about a foot over and lands actually on top of the goal. Better by Bentancur, much closer. Just a few moments ago, as that ball dropped to Sarr for a second time in a number of minutes, I thought this is the one, he's going to really catch this one. It was even worse than the first.
Villa out from the back once again, and then going long up towards Rodgers, who's out-jumped by Radu Dragushin. Just a 6th Premier League start for the Romanian since he joined in January, and just his 2nd so far this season, and he's got the free kick for the challenge made on him there.
Villa seem to be going long to Ollie Watkins and Morgan Rodgers from deep positions, and so far the 2 Spurs centre-backs have been aerially dominant. They need to try and get the ball to the feet.
Johnson has the ball at his feet, down by the corner flag for Tottenham as they attack the Villa end. Back in field to Pedro Porro. Johnson has it again. Ramsey out to close him down. Johnson dabs it short to Porro, but Villa's squeeze has forced Tottenham to retreat to midway inside the Villa half. Romero square for Destiny Udogie. Udogie points to Son, saying go out to the left, which he does, and then he tries to give the return pass to Udogie, who has fouled his man Onana, and Villa have a free kick deep inside their own penalty area. It's been a goal in one of the 2 o'clock games in the WSL. Brighton now lead Leicester by a 1-0 as Glenn Murray celebrates that strike from Nikita Paris. Keeping an eye on Palace's score as well, or just Brighton's?
All of my old clubs.
It's the politician's answer as Villa get the game back underway, back with Martinez at the edge of his 6-yard box. Really looked forward to this game when I got the call to do it. I thought on paper it could be an absolute belter. It's been
I thought that was because you were going to be with me.
Didn't know about that until a few days ago, and that obviously just added to my
the excitement.
Yeah, salivating at the prospect of Well, salivating at the prospect of the food here generally, because it is fairly top-notch as it's lifted in by Bentancur, and Digne underneath it and gets a high five from Emi Martinez because he sent a looping header up, which meant that his keeper could come and claim.
Well, I tend to agree with you. I was expecting a lot of goals and entertainment, but both teams are very flat so far here at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and the crowd, as you can hear, I want a little bit more from them.
Villa are almost looking a bit leggy, and they did play in the League Cup in midweek, as did Spurs, but they made wholesale changes for that game, so there shouldn't really be any lethargy about the way that they're playing.
That's what we want there, is Rodgers getting on the ball, getting on that half-term, running with the ball at the Spurs defence, Papisad to come back and foul him, but that's more of what I think Aston Villa need to do, try and find their number 27.
Plenty of stories in the FA Cup first round this weekend. One of them was the grudge game between MK Dons and AFC Wimbledon. It's finished at Stadium MK. Aaron Paul.
It has MK 0, Wimbledon 2 goals, either half from Stevens and Bouguil, see Wimbledon through in a dominant performance, with MK being reduced to 10 men following the sending off of Lemonhay Evans. MK 0, Wimbledon 2.
And it's also just finished at the VBS Community Stadium. Sahel Sahi.
Yeah, full time here, Mark. Sutton United 0, Birmingham 1. The League One leaders there through to the second round. And despite the narrow scoreline, it was an emphatic victory. The goal came in the first half. It wasn't tidy. A cross from the left was sliced in by Williamson. Sutton had their best moment just before the break when Jaden Harris screwed his shot wide. Full time, Sutton United 0, Birmingham 1.
Tottenham on the attack at the moment as Romero slips it in for Brennan Johnson, gets to the byline, gets it across, and Martinez makes the gather. Solanke was loitering, but the offside flag was raised in any event. It's also finished in the WSL at Lee Sports Village. Sani.
Manchester United 1, Arsenal 1. Alessia Russo's first time finish on 63, cancelled out by a header from Melvin Mellard, stealing in front of the keeper from a crazy corner. Manchester United rescue it in the end. Arsenal were the better side. Manchester United 1, Arsenal 1.
Thanks, Sonny. Boos for Villa as they take their time over the restart, and then Matty Cash collects possession, and he attracts the jeers from the home fans as well. And Arna's worked a clever ball into the centre circle where Ramsey was trying to hold off Bentancur, and again it just felt like a bit of a cheap free kick that Craig Pawson awarded.
Yeah, just protecting the ball, Ramsey there, wasn't it? Didn't really have full control of it. It's running away from him. I think Craig Pawson's been extremely soft so far in the open stages of this game.
McGinn again using his backside to hold off with Doggy, but he's lost the ball this time. Too concentrated on keeping the Doggy at bay, and Son picked his pocket as Sarr brings it over halfway. Watkins has dragged him back, and wonder if he might get a yellow card for this. It was one of those where Sarr got the wrong side of him, and he just went to grab at his shoulder and tug him back, but he's got away with just the free kick.
Yeah, definitely a free kick on that occasion. Craig Pawson was in the right, but don't quite agree with the yellow card. There's nothing in it. Stopped a little bit of play. I think it was good centre-forward play.
You would say that. 0-0, very 0-0, I should say, at the moment here at Spurs, unfortunately. 28 minutes gone. We've still got another Premier League commentary to come for you on 5 Live's Premier League Sunday, and it's a big one at Old Trafford. Manchester United against Chelsea, and John Murray and Dion Dublin will bring you that 4:30 start in that one. Spurs with more of the possession and more of the territory, but still not doing a great deal with it as Dragoshin collects on halfway. Takes a couple of steps and then goes square again to Romero.
You're right with the possession and the territory, but so far Spurs have not made that count. Aston Villa look extremely comfortable, just sat in that structure of that 4-4-2, that mid-block. But their fans want a little bit more from them going the other way.
Fans cheering a lunging challenge by Rodrigo Bentancur. He came sliding in to make the challenge. He's got quite a few options to choose from in that central midfield three. Maddison and Basuma both making way on the bench today. Obviously, when Maddison's not in the team, that seems to attract quite a lot of attention.
Yeah, well, I think he's the most creative player Spurs have got, and I think what he's done in the Spurs shirt has been positive, but Ange Postecoglou feels as though he's stumbled on something that maybe works a little bit better without Maddison. But if it stays like this, there's no doubt we will see his introduction at some point.
Not shy of making an early change. I remember the game against West Ham when they were not at it, and Maddison was hooked at half-time. Sarr came on, and they went on to win that comfortably. Tielemans has slipped it into Ramsey, edge of the area, and Ramsey goes for a goal and it's deflected over the top. Well, Vicario would have been struggling there. That's the best we've seen from Villa so far. Quick, incisive, and then Ramsey's drive took a touch on its way behind.
Yeah, it was a good ball through from Tielemans, and as Ramsey just skips inside, he has one thought, can I get a shot away? But actually Morgan Rogers had made a really good underlapping run. I think he should have tried to find his teammate. That just shows Aston Villa have not got in those positions very often this afternoon.
Tielemans will take this corner then for Aston Villa with half an hour played and still waiting for the breakthrough at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Vicario being crowded and this time gets a fist on it. Did well there because we know that is a potential weak spot for the Italian goalkeeper. Looped him once again. Vicario stayed in his line this time, and Onana got his head on it, and Vicario reacted well to get down and block at the base of the post.
Well, I said about Onana's stature, and that ball swung in, and he's actually at the back post. He does amazingly to head this ball, get up above it. It's a high ball in, manages to guide it down. It actually hits the base of the post, hits Vicario in the face and comes back out to play, but it's Spurs who react quickest.
Well, that could easily have been one of those where it hit the post, hit the keeper and then rebounded in for an own goal. Villa starting to step it up, not seen much of them in an attacking sense until the last few minutes or so, and now Craig Pawson goes in just to act almost as a nightclub bouncer and ensure that there's no sparring between the Villa players and Vicario, and the Tottenham players are acting as their goalkeeper's minder. That's been an area of weakness for him, but he's trying to make his presence felt in there, just shoving Rodgers off the ball, pushing Torres away as well.
By doing that, Tielemans is wide open on the edge of the box. I just wonder if they're going to swing this in a couple of times and then later on they might try and find him.
Is it the double bluff? No, it is worked in towards that near post area, and it's in! Villa in front, Morgan Rogers bangs it in from virtually on the goal line. Spurs undone by a set piece once again. It has been problematic for them for a while, and that was a massive problem for them. Failed to get it away at the near stick, and Rogers on hand to slap it in from close range. Spurs 0, Villa 1.
And Vicario's out of his area, and I don't know what he's chastising at, because he was all wrong there. Again, good by Aston Villa, put it right on top of the goalkeeper, got in the goalkeeper's ribs. They know, like you say, that is a weakness. And as this ball comes in, I'm just watching him. He's all in yellow, he's fighting with Morgan Rogers, he gets in front of him. I actually think he comes off a Spurs player at goal. Just watching here, yeah, it's flicked on by a Spurs player. It makes quite a good save, but he parries it 2 yards in front of him, right to Morgan Rogers, who's standing there to tap in. Won't get an easy goal this season, but boy, he's in a big one.
Well, looked as though Pedro Porro was the Spurs player trying to clear it, but got an inadvertent flick on, which then gave Rogers the chance to tap home.
It's funny because Vicario fought to get in front of Rogers to that front post, and he actually did save that flick on from Pedro Porro, but Morgan Rogers, who just stood in his position, held his position, the ball fell kindly at his feet, and he stabs Aston Villa into a one-goal lead here.
Well, Rogers continues to impress, doesn't he? That's now 3 goals and 2 assists in 6 Premier League games for Rogers, and a goal here, and we've also had a goal at Curzon Ashton for Rob Law.
It's Curzon Ashton 0, Mansfield 2, 32 minutes on the clock. A long way back now for the National League North side, who are down to 10 men, remember. Stephen Quinn gets on the end of a low cross to fire home at the back post. Curzon Ashton 0, Mansfield 2.
It's the Villa supporters that you can hear now here at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium as Ange Postecoglou stares out into space, hands in pockets. They hadn't done a great deal wrong, perhaps not a great deal right either, but he continues to bat away questions about their defending from set pieces, but they have had an issue dealing with them for some time now. Conceded the second most from dead ball situations in the Premier League since the start of last season.
Yeah, it's definitely an issue, and it's an issue that everyone knows about, unfortunately. And you could see the way that Aston Villa set up. It was a clear tactic. They wanted to put as much pressure on Vicario as possible, and at the second time of asking, it's paid off already.
Romero for Tottenham Hotspur, trailing here to a Rogers goal to 0. Porro with a surge over halfway. Watkins made a half-hearted attempt to try and close him down. Brennan Johnson has it for Tottenham. He has to go back though to Bentancur, midway inside Villa territory. Square ball to Dragoshin just outside the centre circle. He rolls it into the feet of Papsar, and now it's on the left with Son up against Cash once again. Those two continuing the battle, and Son's got the ball in dangerously, but actually too close to Martinez, who gathers safely and then collapses onto the turf.
Well, Son waves his arms, because I think when he does that step over with his right foot, you know that that ball's coming in from his left foot, and it's an outswinger. Whoever's in this end, I think it was Dominic Solanke, he's got to do better. He's got to get across that front post and give him an option, and if he does that, it's a tap-in.
Bentancur into the path of Porro, chance to get the ball in, and Onana was again, as he has been quite a lot today, in the right place for Villa to clear, with 10 minutes to go until half-time, and Onana's side leading by Rodgers' goal to nil. Just saw a replay of that goal again. It was inadvertently flicked on at the near post by Porro, and then Bentancur made a mess of clearing it. It came off Vicario, and that presented Rodgers with the easy opportunity. It's a mess.
It was a mess. From start to finish, it was a mess. Not good from Spurs. Aston Villa, though, been lethargic, but they found a way.
It's what good teams do, get results when you're not at your best. And Villa in front here, having not exactly been firing on all cylinders so far. Bentancur with an overhit pass that Porro's rescued down by the corner flag, kept it in. Digne goes across to just block him off. Porro jinks and weaves and gets the ball in, and it gets a deflection, so Tottenham have a corner.
Yeah, Spurs still trying to just get some sort of momentum in the game. Like you said, they've got plenty of territory, plenty of possession, but they're not making it count at the moment.
Corner that Porro will take. Outswinger from the Spaniard in his luminous orange boots in what is a pretty gloomy afternoon in North London, and gloom for Spurs fans at the moment, which isn't lifted by anything from that corner. Easily cleared at the near stick by Luca Digne. Now it's Brennan Johnson who's in the area, stood up well by Ollie Watkins, who just shut his legs at the right time to ensure that the ball didn't go through them. Ramsey should be able to run this clear, and it's into the feet of Yuri Tielemans. Lovely ball from him to find McGinn, and McGinn gets a bit lucky as his pass went astray, but the rebound came back to him. He's lost it anyway though, and Bentancur's fed Son. Left channel for Spurs. He's got two Villa players in front of him. Son nearly wriggles between them, and then Onana recovers and sends it out for a corner.
Onana's been brilliant so far from a defensive point of view. He's always been on the cover of Matty Cash, whether it's an underlapping runner, whether it's Son trying to get inside him. He's always aware of that situation as it builds up, and so far he's stepped in 3 times in that one position.
Tottenham corner, which Porro has gone across to the left to send in for Spurs. He's got 6 in the penalty area to aim for. The main cluster are by the penalty spot. They now move towards Martinez, who shows safe hands and gathers, and I guess that's the difference between Emi Martinez and Vicario.
Well, you're talking about the best goalkeeper in the world there. Martinez, obviously, like we say, voted. We spoke about him at the top of the show. Off balance, manages to get his arms up and collect it. He's got a big, good physicality about him. That's probably the difference between him and Vicario. It's just that stature, that strength.
Well, not quite pantomime season yet, but Emi Martinez certainly likes whipping up the animosity from the opposition fans. Took his time over the restart there, and Watkins can't make it stick down by the edge of the Spurs box. Kulusevski can bring it over halfway. Tielemans tracking him back and forcing him out to the right-hand side, but Kulusevski's got past him and gets it in towards Solanke. Lunging challenge from Onana to make the clearance, and Pau Torres gets it further away. And it's going to be kept in by Pedro Porro. Looked like it might loop out for a throw. Porro back to Romero. 7 minutes of the first half left to play. Rodgers' goal from a corner that Tottenham sloppily defended. The difference between the sides in what has been a bitty first half. Son cuts in field towards the corner of the area, looking for the give and go with Kulusevski, but they weren't on the same page, and the ball is cleared away. Here is Tielemans now into the feet of Ramsey on the left. Tielemans was caught, advantage played by Craig Pawson. Ramsey can't really turn it into one, so they go back to Digne, and he's back now with Pau Torres. Let's get an update from Boreham Wood and Chris Coles.
The non-league side still behind mark. Boreham Wood 0, Leyton Orient 1, and the League One team good value for that lead as well, seeing almost all of the ball and creating a couple of decent chances in the process. Boreham Wood 0, Leyton Orient 1.
Thanks very much for that, Chris, and Well, there's confusion here because Amadou Onana was absolutely clattered by Rodrigo Bentancur. It looked to me like a certain free kick and a nailed-on yellow card as well, but initially Craig Pawson didn't give anything.
Well, without doubt, it's the worst challenge we've had all afternoon. And Craig Pawson, he sees it clearly, he's got a good line of vision, and he waits 4, 5, 6 seconds before he makes a decision. And it is a clear yellow card for me. Bentancur comes across, takes everything out of Onana, but Craig Pawson doesn't see it the way I did.
Not the way I did either, but Villa do have themselves a free kick as we edge towards the closing 5 minutes of the half.
You just show Onana, he's back, always defending, always aware, always snuffing out that danger, but then when he does get on that half turn, when he covers that ground, he can be a real problem going forward.
Free kick which Tielemans has slotted down the right flank for Matty Cash. Cash back towards Tielemans, 10 yards outside the box. He was aiming for the slide rule pass to find the run of Cash, but it's cut out by Kulusevski, and Spurs streaming forwards now, but Kulusevski's ball is cut out by the covering McGinn, and he has guided it back to Emi Martinez. Goal at Selhurst Park in the WSL. Emma Jones.
And it's gone to the league leaders Manchester City. A lovely looping effort from Jess Park. Palace 0, Manchester City 1.
So City in front at Selhurst Park. West Ham are winning away at Spurs in the WSL as well. Ueki with the goal for the Hammers in that one as Son runs round the D of the Aston Villa penalty area. Can't penetrate the line of claret and blue though, so it's back for Sarr, who thought about the long range hit. His 1-2 with Son doesn't come off. There's not many of those little intricate patterns of play from Tottenham have been all afternoon. It's lofted forwards from Villa now, and Ollie Watkins, who's one-on-one with Dragoshin. Couple of step overs from him. Infield now to Tielemans, who'd looked to just dig the pass back to Watkins, but it's cut out by the Spurs defence, and Porro could poke it forwards to Johnson. 4 minutes left to go until half-time. Spurs looking for an equaliser. Johnson carries well, gets up towards the edge of the Villa area, into the feet of Solanke, and for a minute looked like he'd rolled his man, but he left the ball behind as well. So Villa have it with Tielemans, and now it's with Ramsey. From what was quite a staccato first half an hour or so, it's not quite end-to-end, but it's better.
Yes, it is much better. Starting to open up the game. Just looks like Spurs are lacking a spark, in all honesty. Aston Villa, once they string a few passes together in the middle of the field, they look dangerous.
Porro centre field, but again two Tottenham players not on the same wavelength. Porro's pass, Son went the other way. Villa have got it back, and Villa might be in business here because Rodgers has carried and found Ollie Watkins. Lovely first touch. The second was poor though, as he dragged it wide. It was almost trademark Ollie Watkins there. Took the ball in his path magnificently, but then spooned the finish wide.
It was, and it's the first time he's got a yard from Romero. He's been touch tight all afternoon. This time he takes it with his right foot onto his left. It's in his path, and he just drags it wide of Vicario's left post. Big chance for Ollie Watkins.
Son for Spurs, midway inside the Villa half. It's centre field now with Pat Matar. He's rolled it into the feet of Porro, who just sort of gesticulates to his teammates. Where's the option? Where's the forward pass for me?
Yeah, I was just thinking to myself there, if Watkins puts that in the back of the net, I wonder how this crowd would have reacted at half-time.
That's a good question. Be interested to see how they react at half-time anyway, but Spurs trailing by a 1-0. Udogie 5 yards outside the area. Bentancur from distance, and again Martinez, I think, just in cricketing terms, could shoulder arms at the end there, knowing that he didn't need to touch it because it was always off target.
Well, again, it's another long shot by Spurs, 20, 25 yards. They just can't seem to penetrate this Aston Villa back eight, I would say, because they are dropping really deep in a strong structure, and that just shows the frustration. 5-6 shots from long range now for Spurs, nowhere near.
Spurs trailing, and we know Chris Sutton's a big Ange fan. He'll be on 6:06 with Robbie Savage from 6:30 this evening, so get your calls in to talk about this or any other talking point from the weekend's football. There have been plenty of them. Cash on halfway into the midriff of McGinn, who's being wrestled to the ground by Udogie, and managed to keep possession mightily well there for Aston Villa. Almost into the last minute of normal time in the first half as Cash plays it into McGinn, and Udogie again buffets him from behind. Well, there's been a couple of battles so far. Udogie and McGinn have had regular run-ins, and then also we've seen that one between Cash and Son.
Yeah, well, McGinn's getting frustrated because he keeps backing in. He's trying to buy the foul, but The referee's having none of it. He's looking at his manager. His manager says get up, gives him a big thumbs up to keep doing what you're doing, but he's still talking to the linesman. He's not very happy, the Scotsman.
Villa have won 3 of the last 4 league meetings between the sides and are in front here in the dying stages of the first half, thanks to Morgan Rogers' goal bundled in at close range, and Spurs made a real hash of defending a corner. Good defending, meanwhile, from Romero to anticipate the ball forwards well, and then John McGinn perhaps taking out some of the frustrations on not getting the earlier decisions, has shoved the Argentine, and it will be a free kick for Tottenham.
Yeah, the ball hasn't stuck up front for Aston Villa so far. Romero's getting the better of that battle with Ollie Watkins. It's been really tight and really physical with him, and I just can't help but feel that Ollie Watkins will spin, he will get away from him at one point. Could be a little bit cuter, Romero.
Fourth official, Peter Banks, has gone down towards the halfway line and is about to raise the board to show us how much additional time we will have. And the answer is just the 1 minute, which we are into now. Villa have mugged Spurs down by the corner flag and managed to procure a throw from the situation.
It was quite a word, mugged them. It was actually Dragic. He had control of the ball. All he needed to do is clear it with his left foot. He pretended to. Morgan Rogers stepped in front of him and let the ball run out of play.
So throw for Villa, so a set-piece chance which Cash is going to hurl in. Vicario's come an awful long way and has actually made a good claim, almost at the edge of his penalty area. That's how far he advanced, and he caught it cleanly and bowls it out to a doggy. 30 seconds of stoppage time left to play on 5 Live's Premier League Sunday. Villa leading 1-0. Tielemans into the feet of Ramsey in the centre circle. Spurs gather around him though, so he opts for the safe pass back to Luca Digne. And now it's his centre-half, Pau Torres, who plays into Onana, who's had his pocket picked. Really awful piece of play there. Solanke into the area. Chance for Spurs at the end of the half. Concert to the rescue to spare the blushes of Onana and Villa there, because that could have been a leveller for Tottenham on the stroke of half-time. But you wondered about the reaction at the interval, Glenn Murray. You can hear it from some of the Spurs fans there. A few groans, a few boos.
I think it would have been a lot different if Ollie Watkins had put that big chance away 5 minutes before half-time. A little bit of life from Spurs at the end there. Solanke just trying to get that shot off, maybe lacking a little bit of confidence, but Spurs end the half well.
Well, Tottenham have lost 9 of their last 16 in the league, and they trail at the interval this afternoon. Half-time, Tottenham Hotspur 0, Aston Villa 1.
Glenn, what about Onana's performance in that first half in the Villa midfield?
Oh, outstanding, absolutely outstanding. The way he read the game, the way he got around the pitch, his understanding of having to cover his full-backs. Even when Porro got down the right-hand side, he cut it back, he was the first man there, he was aware of that situation. And then when he gets on the ball, he always finds a Villa shirt. And even when he's in possession, when he carries the ball, he covers so much ground so quick. He's been the one out there this afternoon that's been exceptional.
I know Morgan Rogers' goal, that kind of goal is not...
It was beautiful, Steve, it was absolutely beautiful. Do not write that goal off.
Do you know what? I was setting you up for one there and you've absolutely done me, so congratulations. What I did want to say on a serious note about Rogers is that, I mean, that goal isn't the kind of thing that you would think will or won't get him in an England squad, but it just, the case keeps building, doesn't it? And it's going to be more and more difficult to ignore him.
Well, no, it wasn't enough to ever get me in England squad, Steve, but the numbers will get him in England squad, and when those numbers, whether they're 25-yard screamers, whether they're beautiful assists, or whether they're tapped in from a yard, you can't ignore numbers these days.
Joe Hart was saying to us beforehand that Ange Postecoglou is the best manager he ever had at half-time. Tweaks, what tweaks do you think he needs to make?
Oh, energy. It feels like the whole Spurs 11 are looking at one another, who's going to do something, who's going to make the difference, and often, a while ago, that man was Harry Kane. He's not here anymore to rescue this squad. Could he introduce Maddison as a spark?
We will find out. Thank you very much, both. Tottenham Hotspur 0, Aston Villa 1 at half-time. We are live now from Old Trafford. Full commentary at 4:30 of Manchester United versus Chelsea in the Premier League. Huge day of FA Cup action. We spoke to the manager of Curzon Ashton earlier today. Well, he's had a half to forget against Mansfield in the FA Cup first round. Rob Law.
He'll be absolutely gutted, Steve. Curzon Ashton 0, Mansfield 2. No sniff of an upset here. Mansfield have dominated possession. The first goal coming from the penalty spot after Marcus Porsche, the Nash defender, was judged to have blocked a Will Evans shot on the goal line with his hand. He was shown a straight red card. Lucas Akins punished the National League North side from the spot. The lead then doubled just 15 minutes later through Stephen Quinn, who arrived at the back post to lash home past
Bobby Jones in the Curzon Ashton goal. It could have been more as well. Will Evans has had a few more opportunities, but at the break, Curzon Ashton 0, Mansfield 2.
What about Boreham Wood against Leyton Orient, Chris Coles?
No sign of an upset here either. The League One side in front through Sonny Perkins' strike from the edge of the area. Hit it well, keeper got a touch, but too powerful. Orient have negated the non-league side's threat very professionally. Neat and tidy possession, uncomplicated defending when Boreham Wood muster their infrequent attacks. The home side have got into some threatening areas, but then the final pass when they get there, not of the required quality. However, at only one down, they're still very much in this. Boreham Wood 0, Leyton Orient 1.
Earlier full-time, Sutton United 0, Birmingham 1 and MK Dons 0, AFC Wimbledon 2. Into the WSL half-time in the game between Crystal Palace and Manchester City. Emma Jones.
And the league leaders Manchester City are ahead at half-time. It took a while for the goal to come though. Palace, as you might expect, solid defensively, and it was Jess Park who tried something different in the 40th minute to loop the ball into the back of the net. Crystal Palace 0, Man City 1 at half-time.
And in the Women's Super League at full-time, it was Manchester United 1, Arsenal 1. 2 games kick off in the Scottish Premiership in the next few minutes. Hibs against Dundee United and Dundee against Kilmarnock. Much more to come on the Scottish League Cup semi-final as well, which starts at 3. Motherwell versus Rangers at Hampden Park. So we will get round that, and we'll have our first proper look ahead from Old Trafford to Manchester United versus Chelsea in the Premier League after the news on 5 Live with Carl Hartley.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
Thanks, Steve. Angry crowds have shouted insults and thrown mud at Spain's King Felipe as he visited a town near Valencia that was badly hit by recent floods. More than 200 people have died and many are still missing following the flash flooding. Government officials have been criticised for their planning and response. Juan Badera is a member of Valencia's regional parliament.
It's reasonable that people are angry because the response of these institutions or governments in Spain, and the king comes today to make courtesy visits and some photos. It's logical that the people are angry. It's logical that the people didn't understand why this visit is so urgent.
Well, in the last few minutes, Spanish media has reported the king's visit has been suspended. Police Scotland have received a new allegation of non-recent sexual assault against former First Minister Alex Salmond. He died suddenly last month after having a heart attack while attending a conference in North Macedonia. In 2020, he was cleared by a jury of 13 sexual offence charges, including attempted rape. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, says that she was wrong to say she wouldn't have to rise taxes before the government's election victory in July. Labour insisted throughout its campaign that it wouldn't introduce major tax rises. Last week's budget saw the UK's tax burden reach its highest ever level. Health officials in Gaza say fresh Israeli airstrikes have killed at least 23 people. The attacks come as the UN's Children's Agency condemned the killing of 50 children in the past 48 hours in Jabalia. Israel says it's trying to prevent Hamas from regrouping. And thousands of people have marched through London demanding the government do more to stop the pollution in Britain's rivers, lakes and seas. The government says it is taking action by introducing new legislation.
Asia is home to the most extraordinary life. The largest owls. The world's smallest elephants. The richest seas on the planet. The biggest of all big cats. The world's rarest bear.
Asia with David Attenborough.
If you think you've seen the best the natural world has to offer, think again.
Watch on BBC iPlayer. This is 5 Live Sport
with Steve Crossman.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
And we are live at Old Trafford. Ruud van Nistelrooy's first Premier League game in charge of Manchester United at 4:30. Chelsea, the visitors. We will bring it to you in full. Tottenham 0, Villa 1, half-time at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We'll be back there for second-half commentary shortly. An absolutely fascinating Brazilian Grand Prix ahead of us on 5 Sports Extra. The coverage starting in the next 15 minutes or so. Lando Norris starts on pole. Max Verstappen is down in 17th. The race will start at 3:30. It is perfectly set up, Harry Benjamin.
It is. I mean, what a day we've had so far. As you say, qualifying postponed, a frantic session earlier, 5 red flags, and in the end, Lando Norris keeping it together to deliver pole. Title rival Verstappen, qualified 12th on the road, has a 5-place grid penalty due to start 17th. He could be bumped up a couple of places with other cars ahead of him crashing and needing repairs. But this is a crucial day for Lando Norris, already closing the gap to Verstappen after winning the sprint race. He's 44 points behind now. He needs to win this afternoon's Grand Prix to keep his hat in the ring, but there is still bad weather around. How much will that continue to play a factor? We shall see.
Commentary on 5 Sports Extra. The second semi-final of the Scottish League Cup is about to kick off. It's Motherwell against Rangers. Celtic await the winners, Ailey Barbers at Hampden Park.
Yeah, good afternoon, Steve. Another huge game for Rangers boss Philippe Clement in this roller coaster season, and he needs a response after their midweek defeat to Aberdeen. There is unrest amongst the supporters, and you have to wonder how long the Belgian will remain in his position should the League Cup holders go out here today. They do have a boost though, as Václav Černý is fit to start. He has 5 goals in his last 4 games. Motherwell, they made it to both cup finals 6 seasons ago, but this is their first cup return to the National Stadium since, and with injury to both their captain and vice-captain, 18-year-old homegrown talent Lennon Miller wears the armband today as he hopes to take his team one step closer to a first trophy for 33 years. Kick-off at 3 o'clock.
There's one game in the Championship this afternoon. Burnley have the chance to go second with a win at Millwall. James Gregg is at the Den.
Afternoon, Steve. Yeah, it's a really intriguing one, this. Burnley have only lost once this season, like you say, can go back second with a big away win this afternoon. But after 4 draws in their last 6, they have lost ground on Sunderland and co at the top. Scott Parker, therefore, looking to engineer something more than a point then against an ever-improving Millwall, who are unbeaten in 4. They've won their last 2 and are looking to keep that good form going. I'm expecting a close one here at the Den. It's Millwall against Burnley.
Wrexham are aiming to reach round 2 of the FA Cup for the 3rd consecutive season. They're at Harrogate Town, who themselves have a good cup record of late. This one kicks off at 3:30. Nick Houghton.
Yes, it does, Steve. Yeah, Harrogate Town knocking Wrexham out of the FA Cup at this stage 3 years ago in what was Phil Parkinson's first season in charge of Wrexham. Back then they were in the National League, of course. Today they're 3rd in the League One table. Harrogate 17th in League Two. Since that FA Cup win, though, both games in League Two between these two sides have ended in stalemate. And as you say, Wrexham looking to continue their good cup form. They've reached the 4th round in the last 2 seasons. Harrogate themselves, they need to win to end their run of back-to-back defeats. Both sides go strong in their lineups. Wrexham with Mullin and Palmer up front. Harrogate go with March and Muldoon looking to end their 2-match goal drought. As you stay, Steve, kick-off here is at 3:30.
In the WSL, it finished Manchester United 1, Arsenal 1. Melvin Millar scored a late equaliser to cancel out Alessia Russo's goal. Let's hear from Arsenal's interim boss, René Slugger, speaking to Sani Rudravajula.
Renee, it was frustrating in the end getting the draw because Arsenal were a better team for quite a long time in that one.
Yeah, I agree. We do a lot of things really well today. I think as a team, what we wanted to bring to the game, we spoke about ruthlessness in both boxes. We spoke about intensity in our game, lots of communication on the pitch, being present in every moment, and I think we did that really well today. So we wanted the 3 points. I think we have a really good performance, so disappointment that we only got 1 today.
There's a few fans here shouting for Alessia Russo, of course, the next Man United player. Just a word on her performance today. Got that one really well taken. Could have had a few more as well.
Yeah, she takes herself to really good positions, so that's very positive. And if you keep on going, getting yourself into good positions, you're going to get the goals, because often the 9 is involved in our attacks and is closest to the goal. So I think as she keeps on being consistent with her positioning and what she's doing, the hard work, very humble, always asking questions, training hard. So she's a fantastic player, so I'm happy for her. She scored the goal today.
The Arsenal interim manager René Slugger's there with Sani Rudravajula. Spurs 0, Aston Villa 1 in the Premier League. Second half commentary just a few minutes away, and then all eyes here at Old Trafford for Manchester United versus Chelsea in the Premier League. Let's speak to our commentary team. We've got correspondent John Murray here, and actually Ruud van Nistelrooy is not the only great former Manchester United striker here today. I've just seen Dimitar Berbatov's here as well, Dion.
That is so harsh. That is so harsh.
Welcome, Dion.
You know, you come to work and you know, it's terrible. I'm getting on to HR me.
How are you? All right?
Very well, mate. How are you?
Excellent. Yeah, very good. You looking forward to this Van Nistelrooy's first Premier League game in charge?
Yeah, I am. And, you know, it's a tough one, Steve, because, I mean, Chelsea will come here. They're buoyant. They've been playing some really good stuff. The thing that worries me about today's game is Chelsea are quite free in the way they play. They're not very rigid. They tend to just fill in the spaces if there's a space to be filled, even though you're not playing right back for that moment. And I don't think United will have the capability to know what's going on, because most of the time Chelsea don't know what's going on with their own lineup. So that mystery might just throw United today.
Certainly, with all due respect, John, to Leicester City, this will be a far bigger test for Ruud van Nistelrooy, one would think.
Yeah, and I think the approach is going to be very, very interesting to see, because in what way does he want them to be dramatically different? Does he want his Manchester United team, even in this brief window, to look, like a front foot team? I suspect he does. He says in the programme today, in his second set of programme notes, Ruud van Nistelrooy says, quote, "It's great to see the team react exactly as Manchester United players should." He says, "It was very enjoyable to see us expressing ourselves going forward." So he's put that in print. I'm expecting that even though it's Chelsea today and even though it's the Premier League, that's what they're going to try and do, which could make it a very interesting one.
Dion, is there any argument that what Ruud van Nistelrooy should be doing is setting up the team in the way that we know Ruben Amorim is going to want to set them up, which is by playing three at the back? Or is he better off just doing whatever he thinks is right in the short term?
Yeah, I think it'll be about how he can get the points for the game in hand, to be honest with you, Steve. And he'd have worked on certain formations. He'd have looked at Chelsea and he thought, well, I could go 3-4-3 and try and prepare the lads for what's to come, but it's all about getting over this hurdle first, and it's all about him making sure that he keeps that 100% record intact.
Chelsea, John Murray, go above Arsenal with a win.
Yeah, exactly. That's when I looked at the table last night, that was exactly my thought. And if they're above Arsenal, and admittedly there's still a gap there between themselves and the very top of the table and Liverpool, but the way that things went yesterday, what a dramatic and exciting afternoon it was yesterday. A Chelsea win here today, and you know what people will be saying?
Yeah, I'll probably be asking that question inevitably. Right, second half commentary then from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and then we'll be focused here at Old Trafford. Mark.
Thanks very much, Steve. Well, all eyes were on the tunnel to see if there were any changes made by Ange Postecoglou at the interval, and the TV cameras trained on James Maddison, but no alterations from either of the coaches so far. So Spurs trailing by 1-0 with Vicario, Udogie, Dragusin, Romero and Porro at the back as Martinez comes sliding out and just stops with the ball in his grasp before he went out of the area.
He does. I thought his momentum was actually going to take him out there. He was quite... He wasn't getting there very fast, was he? But I don't think he could, because, like I say, if he did get there fast, the momentum would have taken him out. He was super close. He rolls right on top of the ball. But we've seen Spurs out early in the second half in a little huddle. Not getting much back from the fans here. They need a reaction. Ange Postecoglou needs more from his players.
Lost 4 of their last 7 in the league. All of those 4 defeats were by a 1-goal margin, and trailing by a solitary 0-0. Morgan Rogers from a corner that was awfully defended by Spurs. You can see that goal and highlights from the game that we've got for you live on 5 Live's Premier League Sunday at 4:30 from Old Trafford. Manchester United against Chelsea on Match of the Day 2 this evening on BBC One and the iPlayer, with Mark Chapman from 10:30 this evening, as Tottenham's get themselves a free kick for a foul on Christian Romero, who's just grabbing his ankle after he was upended. So I'll run you through the teams while he's getting to his feet. Vicario in goal, Udogie, Dragusin, Romero and Porro at the back, Bentancur, Sarr and Kulusevski in midfield, Son, Solanke and Johnson up top for Spurs. Martinez between the 6 for Villa, Digne, Torres, Konsa and Cash in midfield, at the back, McGinn, Onana, Tielemans and Ramsey, the midfield 4. Rogers, who scored the only goal so far, tucked in behind Ollie Watkins. You were looking at me in disgust a minute ago.
I was, because he didn't upend Romero at all. Romero's kicked him up and down the field all game. He gets close to him and he goes down clutching his ankle, and nothing wrong with that from Ollie Watkins.
Strikers union out in force again as Porro is dispossessed fairly by Ramsey, and Rodgers quickly spins it forwards to Watkins. The south side away to our right hand side. That mass of Tottenham supporters were up in arms about the failure of Craig Pawson to award a free kick, and they're even more incensed now because play has been halted with Spurs on the attack because there is an issue for Rodgers.
I don't understand why he's stopped the play. This ball's gone through. He's let play go on for quite a number of minutes. It's not a head injury, so why Craig Pawson has stopped the ball as it was played through, I think, to Brennan Johnson, I don't know, but Morgan Rodgers is up, he's limping about. He's asking why was it not a free kick, referee. The referee is taking it all the way back, and I think it's going to be a drop ball to Spurs.
And Glenn Murray is indeed correct. It is a drop ball for Spurs. 10 yards inside their own area. Back underway with Romero for Tottenham. Square ball to Dragusin. One of those funny situations where on what has been a fairly tepid afternoon in terms of the noise, the atmosphere and the match itself, if you think that the referee has sort of done you a disservice, that can galvanise the supporters and create a bit of an edge, and maybe that's what Tottenham need to find their way back into the game. Son, crossing position, surely 1-1! Buried at the far post. Brennan Johnson on hand to tuck in from close range, and Tottenham are back on terms. Super ball from the skipper Son from wide on the left, and they were queuing up in there. Johnson arrived and got the touch, and Spurs are level.
Huge goal from Brennan Johnson. Boy, did Spurs need that. Boy, did Ange Postecoglou need that. They can always hurt you, this Spurs side. Once this ball gets transferred out to Heung-min Son, Cash doesn't get tight. The first time he hasn't got tight all game. Couple of steps overs. He whips with his left foot, out swinging in that corridor, right to the opposite winger who's crashing that back post. Brennan Johnson catches it as it skips off the turf. Half volleys it into the back of the net. Spurs back in it.
Solanke and Johnson were both up there. Solanke sliding, couldn't get onto it. Johnson, though, arrived at just the right time and crashed it beyond Martinez and in. So all square now, and Spurs with their tails up. Villa have given it away just outside their own area. It's now Kulusevski having a run at Pau Torres, who has won it back and then jockeyed it behind, expecting a goal kick, and instead it will be a corner. He allowed it to dribble out beyond the byline, fully expecting Villa to get the ball, and at the moment Villa a little bit rattled.
Yes, it was one of those where Pau Torres lets it roll out. He thinks he's getting the ball, but Kulusevski lets it run out because he knows it's his ball, and it is a Spurs corner.
So Dejan Kulusevski will take this corner kick with a rejuvenated Tottenham support finding their voice. Kulusevski into a good area, but Martinez with safe hands.
Spurs seem to have adopted Aston Villa's routine of corners right on top of the goalkeeper, but the only difference is their goalkeeper is extremely strong.
And he made that his own and gets it out to Tielemans. 5 minutes gone then, 1-1 at Spurs, with Chelsea's trip to Manchester United to come for you at 4:30. John Murray and Dion Dublin will bring you that one as there's a nice layoff by Ramsey in centre field to find Tielemans. He nearly managed to weave it out wide to the right-hand side of McGinn, but Udogie read it, and Spurs on the move again. They certainly do have their tails up. Udogie on the left, lovely cut inside of his man, now looking for an option. It's Solanke! Martinez with a smart save to get down to his right and make the block. Solanke controlled it nicely, swiveled and struck, and Martinez got down to make the save.
Yes, Udogie, I thought he'd lost the momentum, but he finds Dominic Solanke, who's going away from goal. It's a good touch and turn, and he hits it into the ground. Good save by Martinez down to his right-hand side. But it's incredible, isn't it? Just a couple of positive actions, a pass across, Brennan Johnson meeting the back post, and the whole atmosphere around the stadium's changed.
Son on the move for Spurs in the centre circle, finds Kulusevski, space for him on the right-hand side. Kulusevski, beautiful ball in, and it's come back for Porro, who's sliced that over the bar and onto the roof of the net. Well, it has been a very lively start to the second half here at Spurs. How's it been since the break at Boreham Wood, Chris Coles?
Just as lively, and we've also seen a goal, a second for League One Leyton Orient, who have taken control of this FA Cup first round tie. Danajai tapping in from just underneath the crossbar. Boreham Wood 0, Leyton Orient 2.
Well, here the Spurs fans are pointing at their watch and pointing at the referee Craig Pawson, because Emi Martinez has been delaying the restart once again. Still no yellow card though for the Villa goalkeeper, which is what the Tottenham fans wanted.
I think you're right with the early pantomime villain, definitely, and boy, does Martinez like playing up to that character.
Son for Spurs, so much better from Tottenham since the break, and Son has then been crashed into by Yuri Tielemans. Villa thought they were away on the counter. Son looks at the referee as if to say, is that not worthy of a yellow card as well?
All of a sudden this game's got a lovely balance to it, hasn't it? It's poised, it's ready to burst into action.
Feels more like the kind of game that we were expecting before kick-off, but after what was a frankly awful opening half an hour, things have gradually improved from a neutral persuasion, and certainly improved if you're a Tottenham supporter, because they were pretty poor before the break and have upped the ante. 8 minutes gone in the second half, one each, and they're on top at the moment, although that ball over the top has too much on it. Johnson can't get there. Villa goal kick.
Not that either manager would be thinking about making a substitution, but I'm just looking down to my left-hand side, and there's 8 substitutes warming up, and there's a lot of attacking talent down there. Richarlison, Maddison, Matson, Duran. Plenty of goals, plenty of creativity to enter the fray.
Watkins in a wrestle with Romero, and he's got there ahead of the Argentinian, who's gone to ground, and Watkins still has it, but Porro has chopped him down as he tried to get away on the left, and that is as clear a yellow card as you are likely to see. Pedro Porro has just slid in on Watkins and completely taken him out.
Well, I actually thought it was a foul on Watkins. He done really well to stay on his feet to get away from Romero, because Romero was pulling him, he was pushing him. I think at one point he had him in a headlock, and then he falls to the ground, and Pedro Porro's trying to clean up Romero's mess by being too tight. We said it in the first half, he's always so tight to Ollie Watkins. Ollie Watkins, fantastic centre-forward play, and Yuri Tielemans has a great area to hit this ball into here, down the left-hand side.
Tielemans on the left then, with Son the one-man wall, bit of a token gesture really. There's the short option to Cash by the corner of the area as well. Tielemans has sort of shooed him away, so it will be bent in right-footed by Yuri Tielemans into a good area, and Onana was up there, didn't deflect it the way he wanted to. Oh, and then the hit from McGinn on the half volley, almost by the edge of the penalty area, flew not too far wide of Vicario's post. Just seeing a replay of it now, and it's about a yard or so wide of the upright. 2 o'clock kickoff here, likewise at Selhurst Park in the WSL. Palace against Manchester City. Emma Jones.
And 5 minutes into the second half, Manchester City extend their lead. Jill Ward, not long back from an ACL injury, certainly found her scoring boots. It's Crystal Palace 0, Manchester City 2.
Well, here at Tottenham, Son Heung-min looks absolutely stunned at the fact that he is being taken off. He pointed to his chest and said, "Me, are you sure?" And after 55 minutes, Son, who's missed the last few games, comes off to a very warm ovation from the home fans, but maybe a surprised ovation as well.
I think surprised as far as the assist was concerned. He looked sharp, he looked good. He's very much been out on that left-hand side. He hasn't been allowed to drift. I'm not sure if that's the system the manager wants to play at all. I always feel as though Heung-min Son's at his best when he's in the 10, when he's getting the ball, when he's got the half turn. I must admit, I agree with the Spurs fans, I'm surprised to see him leave the field of play.
So Richarlison and Basuma, the 2 players who have come on for Tottenham in those changes. First changes we've seen so far, and changes that don't involve James Maddison being brought on from the bench. Ange Postecoglou might feel that no changes are necessary given the improvement in Spurs' performance since half-time. Approaching the hour mark, 1 each at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Sarr goes back to Porro, drills the ball in, which Pau Torres is underneath. His header clear, doesn't get too much distance on it. Ramsey wrestling with Sarr about level with the Villa penalty area by the touchline, can't win it back, but it's now Rodgers who's got possession for Villa. He's given it away to Basuma. Basuma plays it square to a doggy inside the Tottenham half. Glenn Murray.
I think as well as Richarlison, Basuma will add a little bit more impetus, a little bit more energy in that centre midfield role instead of Bentancur. Positive changes from Spurs whilst they're on top.
Rogers has it and runs it out from the back. He's done really well. Rides the challenge from Kulusevski. And then diving in was Romero, and that's another absolute cast iron yellow card coming the way for one of the Spurs defenders. A bit like when Watkins was cleaned out by Porro. Rogers got away from 3 or 4 players, and Romero said, "You're not getting away from me."
Yeah, it was a typical Romero challenge. I just can't understand how he gets himself in those positions constantly. I don't know why he's committing there. It's 10 yards inside the Aston Villa half. He doesn't need to step in. He can jock him down the line. He decides to erratically jump in and earns himself a yellow card. He's walking a thin line now.
Well, Villa have Matty Cash down at the moment. Not sure what caused the issue for him. He's not going to get much sympathy from the Tottenham fans, given his history with them, the incident with Rodrigo Bentancur and with Matt Doherty as well. And Cash remains on his backside at the moment.
And I'm just watching Heung-min Son on the bench. He's not a very happy character. Looks extremely frustrated, muttering to himself. No smiles at all from the South Korean.
It's their last 3 games, one in the Premier League with a thigh injury, and missed 6 of the last 7 overall as well. He's got this really good record against Aston Villa too, but as Glenn was saying, there was surprise amongst us and the Tottenham fans, and certainly for Son himself, as he pointed and said, "Are you sure that it's me that's meant to come off?" And now he has been taken off. He does not look best pleased as he sits in the dugout. And the Spurs fans not best pleased that Matty Cash, who appears to be coming off here, has taken the long way across the pitch rather than walking off to the right-hand side, which is where he was closest to the touchline.
Yeah, and it looks like Matty Cash is going to be exiting for the good, because Diego Carlos is getting ready down below us. Unai Emery's been quick, shouted down. Diego Carlos was already warming up. It looks like Matty Cash's afternoon is over here at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Not entirely sure what caused that, but indeed Cash is slowly making his way off the pitch, and Diego Carlos, as Glenn was saying, is ready to come on. It will be his 50th appearance for Aston Villa in all competitions, and Christian Romero now is holding his ankle. They're dropping like flies.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably holding his ankle because he dived into a challenge that he didn't need to, but yeah, he's made the gesture to the bench. He's coming off, his boots off, he's sat on the turf, and that's both Spurs starting centre-backs no longer involved here this afternoon. It looks like Ben Davies is going to replace him.
Yeah, Ben Davies came on for Romero in the week in the League Cup game, which was down to Romero saying that he felt something, and Ange Postecoglou didn't want to take the risk. You wonder if that might have anything to do with his extraction from the fray here, or if it might be a new issue for the Argentinian. But he limps off, Davies comes on, so both teams forced into changes. And while we have the break here, let's get the team news from our 4:30 commentary at Old Trafford from John Murray.
Well, Ruud van Nistelrooy actually makes just one change from Erik ten Hag's final Premier League starting lineup at West Ham last weekend, and that is Ugarte coming back in for Christian Eriksen, who is not involved at all today for Manchester United. And for Chelsea, a complete change from midweek in the Carabao Cup, i.e. Enzo Maresca goes back to exactly the same team that started against Newcastle in the Premier League last weekend.
Thank you very much indeed, John. Full commentary of Manchester United against Chelsea at 4:30 with John and Dion Dublin. And just as Spurs were building up a bit of momentum, a bit of a head of steam after equalising early in the second half, the game has become a bit more stop-start again, and there's another stoppage here because Onana is down and needs some treatment.
Well, not much has happened for, I would say, 5 or 6 minutes here, and it's been so entertaining because people have been going down, there's been substitutions made, there's been so much happening down there, even though a ball's not been kicked. And we just see there Onana go down. Martinez feels the need to kick it out because he felt as though his teammate had an head injury. It's interesting to see. Is Pedro Porro going to give the ball back here?
Well, the Spurs fans don't want him to give the ball back, but Brennan Johnson has thrown it to Emi Martinez, who gives him a thumbs up. Some of the Spurs fans use different hand signals towards Emi Martinez. Spurs level here against Villa, and Spurs women are now on terms against West Ham. Beth England has levelled things up with an hour played in the WSL for them there. So Lucadinha in possession, has Pedro Porro quickly onto him, and that's forced the error, although Bissouma, having been given the ball, has given it away himself. Jacob Ramsey runs over halfway. He's got Sarr for company. Porro getting back to cover as well. Ramsey having a run at Sarr, and did he get away from him? He did, and he was bundled down to the deck by Sarr, so that's going to be a free kick for Villa in a useful area.
Yeah, he did. He bundled him over. I think as Papi Sarr falls, I think he kind of falls into Jacob Ramsey, and that halt is running. Definite free kick for Aston Villa. Aston Villa, when they bounce on that transition, the likes of Ramsey, the likes of Morgan Rogers, McGinn, they carry the ball so well for this team, and it allows them to get up the field.
So free kick for Villa, left side, Tielemans over it. It's about 5-10 yards perhaps away from the byline. So given the angle, it's going to be a clip into the area unless they've been working on something on the training ground. They do have players in space by the edge of the area, and it's been worked short here. Lucadinha goes for goal, deflected wide. Well, it was a training ground routine, and it nearly reaped dividends as it was blasted across goal and then deflected narrowly wide.
Well, we highlighted it in the first half, didn't we, with the corners. They decided to put it on, and they did get their rewards from the set piece, but this time that space just got too big, and they couldn't not take the option of finding Digne on the edge of the box. The ball actually wasn't that good to him. It lacked a little bit of pace, and someone got out, but it's actually Diego Carlos who diverted it wide for Aston Villa.
One game in the Championship today. It's Millwall against Burnley at the Den. A 3 o'clock kickoff for James Craig.
Yeah, excellent high-octane game this one, Mark. Plenty of chances. Burnley's best was Luca Koleosho hitting the side netting, and then just moments after, Macaulay Longstaff at the other end prodding just over. Frantic first 21 minutes as Burnley nil, Millwall nil, Burnley nil.
Richarlison with a cross into the Villa penalty area. Tielemans tried to control it. It looped up and Martinez gathered. The Spurs fans wanted a free kick for a back pass, but the referee having nothing to do with that, and Martinez got it forwards quickly to Watkins, and it's come off him last and gone out for a Spurs throw. We saw Celtic romp into the Scottish League Cup final yesterday. Motherwell and Rangers battling to join them, and at Hampden Park for us today, Ailey Barber.
A much closer affair than yesterday, Mark. Still goalless here at Hampden. Rangers, though, dominating possession, and they've had the best chance of the game. Cyril Dessers played through. He might have been offside. It was a tight call, but he dragged the shot wide anyway. It is still Rangers nil, Motherwell nil.
That one a 3 o'clock kickoff at Hampden Park. Here we've got 25 minutes of the 90 to go. Spurs on the attack. Richarlison by the corner of the box just smacks that straight into the feet of Ezri Konsa. It was a really lazy ball in from the Brazilian, but Spurs have the throw.
I'll tell you one thing I've been really impressed with, and you're probably not going to expect this from Mark.
My commentary?
But Aston Villa recovery runs have been absolutely superb on the transition, especially the back eight. Ollie Watkins and Morgan Rogers are allowed to do as they wish to a certain extent. They get back in their own time, but the two banks of four get back so quickly, and it makes such a difference.
Spurs with the throw level with the Villa penalty area, which will be taken by Porro. Bowls it into Kulusevski, shields it well from Tielemans, going the long way round, and square pass to Sarr, who finds Richarlison in the area now. Plenty of claret and blue between him and the goal, although he's worked it back to Sarr, who's had a go and sent it narrowly wide. Well, he's got a taste for a long-range hit after he scored that goal against Manchester City here in midweek, and this one wasn't too far away as he sent a low bender just round the upright.
No, much closer than the first two he did in the first half. Just whizzes it past the foot of that left-hand post. But I just wonder, with the change of Son from Richarlison, obviously we've highlighted that Aston Villa are sitting in, and when that left winger in Son gets it, he's got that ability to be able to cut and whip it with his left foot. All of a sudden Richarlison hasn't. He wants to come on his right foot, but he's coming into traffic, so it's a little bit of a funny change for me. That I wonder if it was precautionary.
That's Glenn Murray with us on 5 Live's Premier League Sunday here at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and David Moyes will be on the Premier League review, the next episode of the Football Daily podcast. The ex-West Ham, Manchester United and Everton boss will join Darren Fletcher. That will be out for you from Sunday night, so make sure you subscribe and listen on BBC Sounds to get hold of that. Blow for Aston Villa here, because their goal scorer Morgan Rogers is looking in danger of not being able to continue any further.
No, well, he got a ride out earlier on from Romero and he hurt himself in that, but just there he was the one that was kind of oncoming to Sarr as he takes that shot. But when Sarr takes the shot, I think he's maybe like 3-4 foot away from him, but as Sarr hits it, he tries to generate so much power, he falls over, and as the ball whizzes past, Morgan Rogers watches the ball and he knocks off from Sarr, who actually falls into the back of him and he twists his ankle. Really unfortunate one for the Aston Villa man, and he's walking really gingery. Not sure he's going to be able to continue here, as I see the super sub John Duran getting stripped.
Not often that a top scorer at a club can't get a league start, but that's been the case for John Duran, and he might be sensing another opportunity from the bench here. Certainly stripped and readied for action. Rogers is hobbling towards halfway, hoping to come back on, is he? Although the board is being raised, and Rogers is saying he's okay to continue, but he's actually going to be taken off. That's an interesting one, isn't it? He was ready to re-enter the fray. He's now waving his hands in the air as if to say, come on boss, I was all right to continue, but Unai Emery says, nah, you're coming off, and Duran is on.
Yeah, he's not very happy, is he? He was literally stood next to Duran to try and enter the field of play, and he looks above him and his number goes up and he looks around at his coach and he's, come on coach, why now? I'm ready, I'm still available to go. But Unai Emery makes the decision, and he's got John Duran on the same pitch as Ollie Watkins, and that is a whole lot of firepower.
We've had a player from both sides now who's been unhappy with being substituted. Son grumbling after he was withdrawn, and John Duran very visibly frustrated with Unai Emery that he hooked him with 20 minutes left to play here, and the scores level at 1 each.
Yeah, there's just been a few changes for Aston Villa. So when Diego Carlos come in, he's slipped in at right centre-back, and Conte's moved to the right-back, and it looks like John Duran's going to lead the line, and Ollie Watkins is just going to slip into the 10. I can't help but feel Ollie Watkins has been marked out of the game today a lot by Romero, but I think he might just have a big say on this game.
Duran has managed to poke it into the path of McGinn, who couldn't make it stick, so Spurs quickly forwards. Kulusevski on the right side, he's got Johnson in support, into the feet of Brennan Johnson. Man who brought Spurs back level, now just delays and waits for the opportunity to pick out the cross, but that is catching practice for Emi Martinez, who comes to the edge of his 6-yard box to make an unopposed gather.
Before kick-off we talked about Dominic Solanke and his lack of shots. He's got a couple away today, I think, nothing on target, but I must say some of the balls into the Aston Villa box with the defenders sat in looking out, they're not helping the Spurs forward at all.
Pau Torres has given that away cheaply to Sarr, whose ball from midway inside the half is cut out, and Tielemans now carries forwards for Villa into McGinn. Watkins the only player further forwards, he's on halfway. McGinn, that's a lovely arrowed pass to switch it to the left, and Ramsey, who's collected it now. Ramsey cuts it across, oh he's unlucky, put it into a very inviting area, but it was just slightly behind Ollie Watkins, and there was nobody else up there for Villa to latch onto the ball. Let's get an update from the FA Cup first round. Let's go to Boreham Wood and Chris Coles.
The non-leaguers have a goal, now trailing Leyton Orient by 2-1. Tyrone Marsh getting the final touch, bundling in from almost on the goal line. 20 minutes to play, Boreham Wood 1, Leyton Orient 2.
Richarlison's ball in from the left, he's saying it got a deflection, but the referee doesn't believe so it will just be a goal kick for Villa. Glenn Murray.
Yeah, just looking at Ramsey in the phase of play before, he gets down the left hand side, puts a brilliant ball, it almost rolls along the Spurs 6-yard box, and I think he's well within his right to look up and say, where are you guys? I want to crash the front post, but John Duran for some reason was standing behind him.
Belted forwards by Martinez to Ollie Watkins. You just get the feeling, the way that this second half has gone, that Villa have been content to just settle for a point, which coming into the game you fancied that yes, it's a tough game, but one that they would set out to try and win.
I wouldn't quite agree with settle for a point. I think they've just stopped that Spurs momentum. They've sat in, they will grow into this game. I think they're comfortable where they are right now. they're ready to pounce.
Just as you were during your playing days, as Johnson has it tight to the right touchline. Infield to Pedro Porro. Team 2 clinical fox in the box style finishes from the player apiece today. Johnson, who actually scored against Villa in that 4-0 thumping that Spurs dished out in March, on target again for Tottenham after Rodgers gave Villa a first half advantage. Spurs coming forward to get on the right flank though and forcing the throw out of Luca Digne. 72 minutes gone and Porro taking his time over the throw, waiting for an option to be presented to him. There's no really inviting one, so he goes for Kulusevski, who's dropped the shoulder brilliantly to get away from one challenge, but then Pau Torres stands him up nicely and gets the block in and fires it up to Duran, and Duran nudged it back to Watkins, and Dragusin steps in to just nudge it out of play. First goal in the Scottish League Cup semi-final at Hampden Park today. Which way has it gone, Ailey Barber?
Well, we have a VAR check at the moment for a possible offside, but if it stands, it will be Motherwell who are ahead here, and it is the former Rangers man, Andy Halliday, knocking in a beautiful cross from the left-hand side, deep to the back post, and if this one stands, it will be Motherwell 1, Rangers 0. Still checking that goal though, Mike.
Thanks very much, Ailey. We'll confirm whether that goal stands or not for you as soon as we find out from Ailey. Tough times for Rangers at the moment, trailing potentially to Motherwell in the Scottish League Cup semi-final. The winners of that will play Celtic after they cruised past Aberdeen yesterday. Here at Spurs, one each with 73 minutes gone, and full commentary of Manchester United against Chelsea to come for you with John Murray and Dion Dublin on 5 Live's Premier League Sunday. Doggy has been dispossessed by the byline, so Villa get it forwards to Watkins, who nearly got away from Ben Davies. Stepped in really well there, the Welshman, and won it back for Spurs, who are now getting up towards the D of the penalty area. And here's a chance for Solanke! Spurs in front! Dominic Solanke with a super finish to lift it over Emi Martinez. And Tottenham have turned it around to lead Aston Villa. A lot had been said about his lack of goals, his lack of shots, but that was some finish from Solanke to give Tottenham the advantage late on. Spurs 2, Villa 1.
Well, like you say, Mark, a lot has been said about Dominic Solanke, but that is a top-class finish. It's cool and it's calm in the moment. That's what you want from your number 9. As this ball breaks free, he's always on the move. He wants to get in behind. It's a lovely ball from Dejan Kulusevski. Oh, it's tight. It's really tight, but I think he is onside. I actually think it's probably the elbow. The Aston Villa defender keeping onside, and as Martinez comes rushing out, right foot, he just lifts it over him into the empty net. A really, really high-quality finish from Dominic Solanke, but there is a wait.
Well, it led to appeals from the Villa defenders immediately for offside. They were convinced, but either way, it is fractional as to whether this goal will stand.
I'm going to put my neck on the line and say he's onside.
And he is onside. We can see the green lines. So the goal is good, and Spurs can celebrate all over again. And that is a big goal for Spurs, and potentially a huge one for Dominic Solanke, because although Ange Postecoglou has spoken about how happy he is with the player, you will know, Glenn, as a striker, if goals have dried up a bit, that does start to affect you.
Yeah, but it's part of the process. It's part of being a striker, unless you're one of the very, very best, like a Messi or a Ronaldo or a Shearer. Goals do dry up sometimes, but it's about what you do and what you do for the team during those times. You take it back to basics, and when that chance comes, he's had one chance this afternoon and he's finished with aplomb. That's exactly what you want from your striker. Watch him go on a hot streak now.
Scored on both of his appearances against Villa for Bournemouth last season, and has bagged one against Unai Emery's men this afternoon, and Spurs will feel that's just rewards, although Watkins has got into the area here. Lovely stuff from Watkins, just overran it. McGinn picks up the running now for Villa, and Tielemans by the D of the area. Plenty of Spurs bodies back there. It's Onana now in centre field. Here's Pau Torres. Tottenham leading 2-1 with a quarter of an hour to play. Spurs one offside against Ramsey. Nothing doing for now. Ramsey backwards of square to Tielemans. He clips it in, and at the far post they've not been picking him up. And Udogie gets back to make the clearance. Well, Villa suddenly bursting into life there. Here's Tielemans again for Villa in centre field. Onana inside of Richarlison. He's going to let fly and send it miles over the top of the bar.
A wrong decision from Onana. Probably the first thing he's done wrong all afternoon. His side had Spurs pinned back there. What have we got? 12-13 minutes left. Well, Spurs are not renowned for their defending. Aston Villa are coming to life. I think we're in for a grandstand finish here.
Just seeing replays of the goal from Dominic Solanke once again. It's a really intelligent pass from Kulusevski to find him. He deserves so much credit. Yet another assist for the Swede, who provided both of the assists against Manchester City in the Cup in midweek. And then the cute pass was complemented by the razor-sharp finish.
Yeah, I mean, to pull out a finish like that when there's questions being asked about you shows how confident a young man Dominic Solanke is. It was a wonderful, wonderful finish.
Well, the Tottenham fans now on their feet and cheering. And who is cheering at Curzon Ashton in the closing stages? Rob Law.
It's very much Mansfield, Curzon Ashton 0, Mansfield 3. Ben Waine, the second half sub, he's wrapped up the victory against the National League North side, who have been down to 10 men.
And Solanke has scored. It's another for him. Well, perhaps that hot streak is coming now for Spurs' big money signing. A fabulous finish, lifted beyond Martinez to put Spurs in front, and now on the end of a cutback on the left from close range to almost certainly seal the 3 points from Spurs. A super second half showing from Ange Postecoglou's men to turn the game around and surely now bag the win. Tottenham Hotspur 3, Aston Villa 1, Solanke at the double.
Well, it's Villa's masters of their own downfall, trying to play it from the back. It's Pau Torres who makes a bad pass. Eventually it arrives at Richarlison, who drives at the box. I thought he was going to shoot. For all of me, I thought he was going to shoot, but very unselfishly he cuts it back. Dominic Solanke, the wait is well and truly over. You wait for 1 and 2 come in a matter of minutes. He's back, he's hot. Dominic Solanke, Tottenham's number 9.
Well, Richarlison was the provider for that goal after he was fed by Sarr on the left-hand side, justifying, I guess, the decision to bring him on for Son Heung-min. And it was Solanke arriving at just the right place at just the right time and was never going to miss that.
But in all fairness, when we look at Solanke and no shots in the last 3 games, was it the stat that was going round? He's been given 2 opportunities. He's presented with 2 opportunities by his teammates that have allowed him to have shots on target. And when your teammates create for you like that, Dominic Solanke will score goals.
Villa unbeaten in their last 7 Premier League games before today, since a 2-0 loss to Arsenal in August. It was their joint second longest unbeaten run in the Premier League under Unai Emery, but it's surely coming to an end here. 3-1 down with 10 minutes to go as Villa make a change, and taken off is John McGinn by Unai Emery. I think it's Boubacar Kamara who has come on. Louis Tielemans going off as well, and Jadon Philogene is going to be introduced.
Yeah, and it looks like Spurs are making changes as well. Maddison, who we thought we'd see enter the fray in the second half, probably a bit earlier than this, but it's actually the substitute. Richarlison, who's going off, he's played, 41 minutes? But it's been a positive 41. He's got an assist, and the young man Gray is going to come on as well.
Well, we wait for Villa to kick off. We can go to Selhurst Park in the WSL. Emma Jones.
I can tell you that Manchester City are now 3-0 up. Of course, Bunny Shaw, probably one of the easiest she'll score from close range with a header, her fourth in the WSL this season. The league leaders leading here by 3-0.
And I can confirm that goal for Motherwell did stand, so they lead Rangers by 1-0 in the Scottish League Cup semi-final. Spurs making changes. Richarlison, who, as Glenn was saying, came on from the bench, has gone back onto it now. He's been hooked, as has Destiny Udogie. On have come James Maddison and Archie Gray.
I actually said 41 minutes. Maths never my strong subject, was it? He didn't come on at half-time, did he? He came on early in the second half.
But you did spot that he came on from the bench in the first place, so you get a gold star for that, as Villa try to inch their way into the game, but they've just fallen apart a bit in this second half.
Yeah, slightly. I think obviously you've got to give credit to Spurs for their turnaround. First half was really poor. They lacked any identity, any idea of what they wanted to do, but second half they've been much better. I still wouldn't write Villa off in this game here. There will be more chances, I think.
Lucatinha up towards halfway. Watkins unable to make the ball stick, as I was saying. That goal from Dominic Solanke, the first of the two that he scored, was a sumptuous finish. You can see that in all of the goals from today and across the weekend from the Premier League on Match of the Day 2. That's at 10:30 on BBC One and the iPlayer with Mark Chapman. And all of the talking points will be discussed in the Football Daily podcast, the Premier League review. Darren Fletcher joined by David Moyes. That'll be well worth a listen. Available later on this evening, so you can subscribe and listen on BBC Sounds to get hold of it.
A very ironic cheer there from the Spurs fan, because all of a sudden Emi Martinez is playing quick.
Yeah, exactly, as Philogene tries to lead a quick counter here for Villa. Into the area now, Jadon Philogene, and Philogene's ball in is blocked by Dragoshin and whacked away further by Pedro Porro. Kamara has it in centre field, square pass to Anana. That's a useful ball wide to the right. Leon Bailey has it for Villa. Bailey jinking and weaving, getting to the byline. Can he get the ball in? He can't, and it spoons up in the air and is clutched by Vicario. And there's a bit of a conference going on between Archie Gray and Vicario about how Bailey was allowed to get into that area.
He's not very happy, the Spurs goalkeeper, having a go at the young man who's just came on.
Vicario goes short and Ben Davies brings it forwards. Be interesting to hear in the interview post-match about what the situation is with Christian Romero, because Spurs have another couple of games coming up before the international break. Galatasaray away, which will be a tricky one in the Europa League, before Ipswich come here in their final game ahead of the international break, and their first match after that is away to Manchester City for Ange Postecoglou's side. Lucatinha for Villa. They've got 5 minutes left to try and get 2 goals here, having led in the first half. Pau Torres inside his own half.
Even when Villa were leading, you only felt as though they were doing just enough, didn't you? It was always primed for Spurs to come back. Didn't expect this though. I didn't expect a 3-goal turnaround in the second half. The Spurs have been good, and Postecoglou wanted a reaction at half-time, and his players have undoubtedly given him that.
What a happy birthday then for Unai Emery, 53 today.
Is 53 ever a happy birthday?
Oh, I don't know, you tell me.
I'm not there yet.
Aren't you? Forwards it goes from Pau Torres, chasing after it was Duran, but the ball just curved away from him, and Vicario doing a Martinez, sliding in, collapsing on the ball and taking his time before getting it out.
Yeah, the ironic cheers continue. I think a bit more celebratory from the Spurs fans now.
Well, what was Joe Hart saying earlier on the show about Postecoglou being the best half-time manager that he's ever come across? They've done the job again during the interval today.
Yeah, well, not only the tweaks at half-time, but a really big substitution early in the second half to bring Heung-min Son off. That raised eyebrows, I think, all around the stadium, but it's paid off. Richarlison with an assist, and his side 3 goals better off.
Bailey having a run at Archie Gray, and he's come across Gray to block him off, and the ball is rebounded behind for a corner for Villa, which Lucatinha will take. Well, they were flat at Palace last weekend, very disappointing in defeat there at Selhurst Park, but they've recovered to beat Manchester City in the League Cup here in the week, and are set to put Aston Villa to the sword this evening as well. A week is a long time in football. Vicario was being shoved from behind by a Villa player and clattered into his own man as a result. So Craig Pawson's just halting play so he can come across and have a word with Onana, and I think he's saying, look, I can see what you're up to, so don't try that again.
Well, he's looking up at him because he's so big, the big Belgian, isn't he? It's funny, isn't it, because when you sit down and look at that set of fixtures, Palace, City and Tottenham, you think, two tough fixtures, you probably win at Palace, but no, football has a funny way.
Villa also defeated by Palace in midweek, which they perhaps wouldn't have expected as well. You see them go out of the League Cup, although it was a much changed Villa side. This is the first choice 11, well it was, that started for Unai Emery, and set to slip to defeat here. 3-1 down with 2.5 minutes of the 90 left to play. It's almost all over at Meadow Park as well. Is the game all over though, Chris Coles?
Far from it, Mark. The non-leaguers are level at 2-2 from 2-0 down. It's 2-2 with League One Leyton Orient. A header from Charlie O'Connell, and with 5 minutes to play, we're heading for extra time. Boreham Wood 2, Leyton Orient 2.
And also closing stages at Curzon Ashton for Rob Law.
No such drama here. Curzon Ashton 0, Mansfield 4. Youngster Ben Quinn off the bench and onto the score sheet with a goal to book Mansfield their place in the next round. Curzon Ashton 0, Mansfield 4.
Thank you very much, Rob. We'll keep you up to date with all of the other games that are taking place. Millwall against Burnley was a 3 o'clock kickoff. Harrogate Town against Wrexham at 3:30 in the FA Cup first round, as Luca Digne smashes the ball into Brennan Johnson. It goes out for a throw. Full commentary from Old Trafford is coming up for you shortly. 4:30 start for Manchester United against Chelsea with John Murray and Dion Dublin. Luca Digne will think about maybe going long with his throw. He does towards the corner of the penalty area. Dragoshin missed it, but Spurs have got it away anyway. Recycled for Villa back to Pau Torres. A minute of normal time left to play. Onana in the area, offloads to Philogene, left hand side for Villa. 2 Spurs players in front of him, so back for Digne, who whips in the first time cross, just a bit too high for Watkins. Still alive for Bailey. His hit across goal doesn't come the way of a Villa player, and it's hacked away by James Maddison. Carlos sends the header wide to Bailey on that right hand side. Bailey goes backwards of square, and Villa will start again.
Well, as we approach the 90 minute mark, 3 of the top 5 look like they're going to get beat this weekend. Big winners, Liverpool and Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, and that will all be dissected on the next Football Daily podcast, the Premier League review. We'll hear the thoughts of David Moyes on everything that's happened across the course of the weekend as he joins Darren Fletcher for that one. Twists and turns in the Premier League title race, and down at the bottom as well, and we'll have commentary on Sports Extra at the moment of the Sao Paulo Grand Prix in Brazil as well. That was brought forward due to the torrential rain at Interlagos. In comes the corner from Luca Digne. There looked like a foul on a Spurs man inside the penalty area, and Dragoshin is on the deck, and Onana apologises, so he admits the infringement, and we're going to have 10 additional minutes added on at the end of the 90, which has struck fear into the face of Glenn Murray. Have you got something on later?
No, I was just really surprised to see a double-digit number pop up on the board. 10 minutes, I've really had that much extra time. I suppose we had that 5 or 6 minutes, didn't we, where no ball was kicked, but a lot happened. 10 minutes, Aston Villa, tails up.
Hans Postecoglou with a rueful look on his face when the 4th official, Peter Banks, raised the board to show the 10 additional minutes. But Spurs looking comfortable at the moment, no serious cause for concern since they went 3-1 up, and Vicario now is milking as much time as possible before he gets play underway and finds Ben Davies. Archie Gray was played into a bit of a tight spot there, and Bailey was all over him. Gray's given away the throw. Villa will have it just about level with the Tottenham penalty area. We've played a minute of the 10 that was signalled.
Well, by the sounds of the Spurs fans, I don't think that was well received, that 10 minutes, was it?
No, but perhaps Emi Martinez's lengthy stoppages between restarts might have played a part in it. Either way, Pau Torres has it for Villa. as he finds Luca Digne, left side, over halfway now. Johnson trots across to close him down. He's knocked it into Jayden Philogene, who goes backwards of square into Diego Carlos. Carlos now for Konsa. Bailey, who's been lively since coming on, has two Spurs players blocking him off, so he can't dart in or get a cross in. It's back in centre field instead with Diego Carlos. Carlos to Kamara. Kamara, that's a useful ball to John Duran, who felt he was shoved by Ben Davies. Referee thought it was just about the right side of legal.
And all of a sudden it's Spurs that are dropped back in that mid-block, protecting what they've got.
Bissouma for Tottenham Hotspur, 3-1 they lead. And a good weekend for them when you consider some of the other sides that have dropped points, and obviously be delighted that Arsenal slipped up in their defeat at Newcastle. Johnson infield to Sarr, central area now, works it wide to the left, and the excellent Kulusevski back for Sarr again, urged to shoot, finds Maddison, couple of yards outside the penalty area, central area. Now it's on the left with Gray. They've worked that well. Kulusevski just tried to hold off the challenge of Diego Carlos, and it goes all the way back to Martinez, who balloons the long clearance up to the halfway line, where Ben Davies will win it for Tottenham Hotspur. Can't see a way back into it for Villa.
No, I think the changes that Unai Emery made, they haven't quite had the impact he would have liked. They seem to have lost their way, lost their rhythm. Whereas Spurs seem in control.
Villa will be back in Champions League action in midweek. They're away to Club Bruges. We will have commentary for you of Liverpool against Bayer Leverkusen on Tuesday. Updates from Sporting against Manchester City and Celtic against Leipzig as well on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, Inter Milan against Arsenal is our 5 live commentary.
Well, when you get a look at this first game, Spurs away is the start of a difficult run for Aston Villa. Club Bruges in the Champions League away, Liverpool away, Palace at home, Juventus at home, Chelsea away. Tough run of fixtures coming up for Villa.
They play Liverpool just before the international break to Aston Villa. Pedro Porro for Tottenham. The feel-good factor is certainly back for Spurs, after there were some boos when they went over to the away fans at Palace last Sunday. They were jubilant at seeing off Pep Guardiola's team in the League Cup on Wednesday. They've landed themselves that home quarter-final tie against Manchester United, which will be a Manchester United managed by Ruben Amorim by the time that comes around in December. Maddison, meanwhile, in towards the feet of Solanke in the D of the area, goes to ground under pressure from Diego Carlos, and Tottenham get the free kick as a result.
Yeah, there's a coming together between Carlos and Solanke. Solanke had a little nibble at his ankles. Carlos offered him a hand to get up and then shoved him back to the ground. Solanke didn't like it, jumped up. It's boiling over here.
And the Spurs fans enjoying it, and enjoying winding Emi Martinez up as much as they possibly can. It was a hand offered by Diego Carlos to Solanke. He didn't accept it, and then Diego Carlos turned the handshake into a shove. Solanke then stood up, and I think Diego Carlos realised just how tall Solanke is.
Yeah, he did. He just towered over the top of Diego Carlos, didn't he? And I'm actually surprised, on the edge of the box in the 95th minute, if I was Dominic Solanke on this side, it suits a left footer, I would be having a pop for my hat-trick.
Absolutely. Somewhat surprising that he's taken his place trying to infiltrate the Aston Villa wall, which is 5 thick at the moment, and receiving guidance from Emi Martinez as to their exact positioning, instead of Solanke trying to go for his hat-trick with this free kick from the edge of the D on the right-hand side. As Spurs look at it, it's Maddison and Kulusevski who are looking to put the cherry on the icing on the cake for Tottenham here in the 6th minute of additional time. So the Villa wall is set, Martinez is ready, so's the referee, and Maddison and Kulusevski both over it. 20 yards out, then Maddison pops it over the wall and in! Magnificent from Maddison! A terrific second half from Tottenham Hotspur. They are 4-1 up against Aston Villa, and Maddison with a magical free kick over the wall and into the top corner, and that really is the icing on the cake for Spurs. Some turnaround from Tottenham, trailing 1-0 at the interval, They're 4-1 up in stoppage time.
Similar scenes down there. The whole of the Spurs team are in a huddle, just like they were at the start of the second half, but this time they're 4 goals better off. And I look down and I can see James Maddison doing the dart celebration. He's celebrating to someone in the crowd. It's a brilliant free kick. I was going to say it's extremely close to get it up and down the wall. Doesn't have to get it up and over. He goes round it, bends it. I think it actually kisses the post as it goes in. Emi Martinez has no chance at all, and that puts the cherry on top for Spurs this afternoon.
Maddison and Johnson both scored in the 4-0 win at Villa Park in March. Those two have both netted today in what is set to be a 4-1 victory for Spurs against Villa today. And you would have thought this, given the disjointed nature of the first half and the fact that they were 1 down at the interval. But they really have turned it on since the break. We'd love to know what exactly Ange Postecoglou did say at the interval.
It's turned into a really, really big week for Spurs. Taking down Manchester City, taking down Aston Villa, those losing around them in the Premier League. It's been a really, really good weekend.
Well, there has been a goal in the 3:30 kickoff in the FA Cup first round. It's come at the Exercise Stadium for Nick Hatton.
Yeah, Harrogate 1, Wrexham 0, completely against the run of play. Jack Muldoon with a header from a corner, unchallenged, rose above everybody to head in at the far post. It is Harrogate Town 0, Harrogate Town 1, Wrexham 0.
Half-time in the Championship at the Den, James Gregg.
Yeah, goalless here at the Den for the most. A cracking first half, high tempo, plenty of chances for both sides. Macaulay Langstaff had a great header tipped over for the home side. Femi Aziz's dipping volley also just over, right on top of the stroke at half-time. Great first half, but no goals. Millwall 0, Burnley 0.
Thanks, James. All over at Curzon Ashton. Rob Law.
It is indeed Curzon Ashton 0, Mansfield 4. No fairy tale here this afternoon. League One Mansfield progressed through to the second round thanks to a first half penalty by Lucas Aikins after Ashton had a man sent off for handling the ball on the goal line. Seemed harsh at the time, but a moment that spoilt the game really. Stephen Quinn then with the second in the first half before 2 further goals in the second 45. Substitutes Ben Wayne and Ben Quinn getting on the act, while Aidan Flint was denied by the crossbar in the 88th minute. Comfortable for Mansfield. Curzon Ashton 0, Mansfield 4.
Last time we were at Hampden Park, Motherwell were leading against Rangers. Is that still the case, Ailey Barber?
It is, and that is the half-time whistle gone here. A bad week for Rangers, getting worse because the holders, they are trailing, and it was a former Rangers player and a Rangers fan, Andy Halliday, with the goal. His run brilliantly picked out by Seddon with a deep cross, and he tapped it in. No celebration as he scored in front of the Rangers fans, but the Motherwell fans certainly enjoying it. Rangers have had more of the ball, but they've been sloppy. The 2 chances they have had both fell to Cyril Dessers. He failed to hit the target with both of them. So at the break, it is Motherwell 1, Rangers 0.
So Rangers trailing and Ange's Spurs winning. Chris Sutton will be in a chipper mood for 6:06 later. 6:30 he and Robbie Savage taking your calls, so make sure you register your interest. It'll be interesting to hear from Tottenham and Aston Villa fans, given what we've seen here as we go into the final few seconds of the 10 additional minutes. Spurs 4, Aston Villa 1. A superb second half showing, and the full-time whistle goes. Glory, glory, Tottenham Hotspur rings out around the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and it was a glorious second half from the home side as well, trailing to that Morgan Rogers goal to 0. Solanke struck twice, Johnson got one as well, Maddison with a beaut of a free kick, and at the end of the game, no doubt that Tottenham were deserving winners, Glenn Murray.
Yes, they were. A complete change from their first half performance. Aston Villa were ahead at half-time, but they'd done just enough. They had been good. They hadn't been their free-flowing selves, but it was Spurs' second half. The big changing point was when he took Son off at 1-1. He was the assist giver to Brennan Johnson. He took him off. From that point on, Richarlison helped with an assist to make it 2-1. And then Dominic Solanke with a couple of brilliant finishes. Kept the doubters quiet. And Spurs have had a very, very good week. Productive by Postecoglou.
Very good few days for Spurs, eliminating Manchester City in the League Cup, coming from behind to smash Aston Villa 4-1 with Solanke, who had been in the spotlight, scoring 2 goals, one of which was an absolute beauty. And as Glenn Murray starts to dance to Gala freed from desire, the full-time score here, Tottenham Hotspur 4, Aston Villa 1.
Well, I am absolutely sure, Glenn, that Ange Postecoglou will be asked, what did you say at half-time? Not just because of Joe Hart waxing lyrical about his half-time skills. However, that call in the second half to bring Son off is the big one, isn't it?
It is, and we saw something similar a couple of weeks ago when he took Maddison off and it paid off. And do you know what? He's not scared of making those big decisions. And Postecoglou, he'll do it his way. We've seen that in his tenure at Spurs. But do you know what made me smile more than anything else, Steve, in that second half?
Say again, sorry, Glenn, I missed the end of that.
I said, do you know what else made me smile so big in the second half? Is you doubters in the studio waxing lyrical about Dominic Solanke, and he hits
no doubters.
2.
No, as you know,
Hasn't
Glenn,
had a shot in 3 games. That's
all I do is ask the questions, Glenn.
Madam Julian, where are you?
Probably at home by now. Thank you very much, both. Great stuff, really, really good. And a big win that for Tottenham Hotspur.